What's up, Nerdyverse? I'm Daddy Louie, and in this video, we're taking a look at a game called Mitropia, so stick around. Before we get started, if you're new to our channel and you want to see more content like this, start now by hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Mitropia is a 2 to 5 player game. Takes around 45 minutes to an hour to play. Is for ages 12 and up, and it is being published by Time Warp Labs. The game is strongly based on the ancient game of Go, and it pits 2 to 5 tribes against each other, each with special abilities, trying to control as much territory as they can by the end of the game. Once the end game is triggered, which there are a couple of different ways to do, players will count up points being given for each territory tile that you control, as well as your opponent's warriors that you have captured. But the question on everyone's mind today is this game any good? If you join me on the table, we will get started and take a look. Inside the box, there are a ton of beautiful components, some of which will not be in the final copy, which I'll explain in just a moment. What you are looking at is, in fact, a prototype, so everything is, of course, subject to change. I have been told by the publisher a few things, so I'll try and make note of that as we go through. First, you get a ton of tiles. There are tiles with different art on them, different styles, logos, and stuff like that. One minor gripe that I do have about the tiles is they are double-sided, and I wish that they weren't. And the reason for that is because the game really emphasizes that every time you play, your map layout will be different, and that's because you're going to take a bunch of these tiles and you're going to randomly place them to make a board, so every time you play, it would be different. However, doing that is kind of difficult when the tiles are double-sided, because it's hard for me to randomize the tiles and how the map's going to be if everything is double-sided. Normally, if they were single-sided, I would just flip them all upside down, shuffle them around, and then turn them over to reveal how the map was going to be. Similar to like games like Catan and stuff like that. But here you can't really do that because they're double-sided, so you know what symbol's on both sides. But that's a minor complaint. The components themselves are great, and the tiles will be slightly smaller, which will get the weight of the game down. It's quite heavy once everything's inside the box, but the tiles are going to be a little bit smaller than they are in this prototype version. And it comes with a lot of them. Also, it came with these tiles. I'm only going to show them briefly and then discard them because these tiles are no longer used in the game. It was a mechanic that kind of cluttered things down for the developers. Other than that, everything else is the same. Then you have the player boards. Each player is going to be one of 5 tribes. You can issue these out randomly. They are not double-sided, so you can randomly divvy these out, or you can pre-decide ahead of time who's going to play as what tribe. But the art on these tribe cards is just freaking phenomenal. I love them a lot. Another thing that will be different in the final version is these tiles will have an arrow at the top, which will indicate which direction your armies are moving, which is part of the game that I'll explain in a minute. The prototype came with these little tokens for you to mark which direction you're moving, but these are taken out of the final copy because, again, there will be arrows on these boards. So next we have 2 different decks of cards. One is your movement cards. These show how your armies are going to move around the table. I'll explain these a little more once we set up a game, but essentially what you want to remember is that whenever you're using one of these tiles to move warriors or create new warriors on your battlefield, the black marker in the center indicates a warrior you already have on the table, and then the blue are the locations that you can place an additional warrior, assuming there's not an obstacle or another warrior already there. And then you have your abilities. I do wish that these had a little more to them, maybe some art or an explanation of what they do. You have to reference the manual in order to learn what each of these does, and they are a little plain, but again, a minor gripe. Once you know what everything does, you don't really need the text. I just wish it was there so that when you're introducing new players to the game, you don't have to reference the manual so much. They will be including a quick guide card for each of the players, which isn't in this version of the game, but that would be an additional help to go along with these cards, since there's nothing on them. They're just pretty plain. Then we have your army tokens. There are 5 different colors for the 5 tribes. They come in these very nice, almost suede feeling bags. And inside, in the prototype version, there are 100 army tokens. In the final version, you will get 60 of each, which again is going to keep the weight down. You shouldn't need 100 anyway when you're playing. It's a little excessive. And these will indicate where your army is on the board. They are wood, they are painted, and they're really nice. I like them a lot. But like I said, because there's 100 of them, each of these bags are pretty freaking. And then of course you have your game manual. I like the way that this manual is laid out. I like the paper that it's made out of. It's done really nicely. However, I didn't really reference it too much because the rules have been updated since this copy. So I have the new rules that were emailed to me. But once those new rules get made like this, I really appreciate how nice and sturdy this manual. Okay, so here I've set up for a very simple 2-player game. In a 2-player game, you would have 37 tiles, 2 wormhole tiles, which are pretty self-explanatory. You can enter a wormhole and quickly move your army to another part of the board. I also have 2 mountains, one's down here and one's up here. These are terrain that you can't put anybody in. And then the rest of the tile is up for grabs. The players deploy their chiefs. That's annotated just by 2 tokens standing on top of each other. And then the boards are placed. Again, there'll be an arrow at the top of these boards, and that shows you the direction in which your army is moving. So when you're looking at your movement cards, you can see that if my arrow is facing this way, this is kind of the hex, the hexes that I can use by using this card here. So at the beginning of the game, each player chooses from their hand. They'll have 3 movement cards. They'd have to choose 1 to play, and that is basically how the game starts. And this is open information for both players can see where the other person can place. So on your turn, you can start placing warriors on the board based on either the movement cards that are displayed on your boards, or using a movement card that's in your hand. You discard it, and you can use that as a one-time thing. At the end of your turn, you then draw a card to refill up your hand. The card deck is made up of both the special ability cards and the movement tile cards. So either one of those could be drawn when you do draw cards. So again, the object of the game is to control as much of the board as possible while also capturing the opponent's warriors as well. One of the end game triggers is when both players pass, when there are no more movements available or when a player's chief has been captured. So let's just do a real quick turn here to show you how it works. My blue player over here, he has this movement card on his board. So if you're looking at this here as his player, he's got basically a little mini U up here at the top. So he's got this one, this one, this one, and 1, 2, 3, 4. He could actually use the wormhole here to start moving guys over this way. And then he's also got a tile over here which doesn't exist, so he wouldn't be able to place anything. He's got to use these 3 over here, and that's really all you do. You just place a tile down, and then that's it. Your turn is over. You draw a card, and you move over to the next player. The next player is going to do similar. So looking at his card here, he can place tiles here or warriors here, as well as he could here, but there's no tiles there. So those, so he's got these here, or let's see, this one right there, which is what he's going to choose to do. And so play moves like this back and forth. After a few turns, you might see a board look something like this, and you can see here that my blue warrior is very quickly being surrounded by these yellow tokens here. And you're doing this by placing your warriors using your movement. You're doing this by using your special ability cards and your tribe's individual powers. I'll leave some of those things for you guys to discover on your own, but they are very integral parts of the game. But I wanted to show you real quickly how you would capture a player's warrior. So say it is my turn, and this yellow guy here, he cannot place in this tile. This yellow guy here could, let's see. Yep. So this yellow guy here, he's got these 2 spaces. He could place a yellow dude here. So he's going to place a token there, which completely surrounds this warrior, and he would then capture this blue warrior. So this is a victory point for him at the end of the game when tallying stuff up, as well as he gets a victory point for each of these that he occupies, plus any that are basically unoccupiable, if that makes sense. So nothing is going to be able to make it in here except for a yellow guy, but you don't need to spend one of your movements in order to put a guy there. You would get a victory point for this. Now, if this was your chieftain, or your chief that had gotten captured, then this would trigger the end game, and we would then go to counting. So you would get 1 point for each of these tokens that you have on your that you've captured from your opponent, and you're going to get a point for each of the spaces that are controlled. So your whole board would most likely be filled by this time, but if you got careless with your chief, it is possible to end the game with lots of space still open. But right here you have 6 tiles that are being controlled, plus this, which is 7, plus the chief, which is 8. And if the blue player had captured nothing, and he's only controlling 1, 2, 3, 4, the score would be 8-4, and the yellow player would win. And that's the basic mechanics of how to play. I've skipped a lot of things. I've skipped like replacing your movement tile, which you can do at any time by playing another one. I've also skipped over a lot of what these special ability cards do. And mostly that's just to keep the video at a not super long, and because I want you guys to be able to discover some of these things on your own. If you are curious about any of those things that I have skipped over, let me know, and I can put some more information down in the comment section down below. But that is Mitropia. Mitropia is, if not, is one of, if not the most strategic game I have probably ever played when it comes to tabletop gaming. Literally every move, every choice that you make is extremely important, and it comes down to where your warriors are placed on the field, what can be controlled, what cannot be controlled. Playing with multiple players, the map is just huge, and there's so many different things going on. It is a lot of fun to play. There are a few nitpicky things about the game that really I could overlook. I just wanted to point them out to you, like the double-sided tiles and things like that. Like I said, this is a prototype, so some things have changed. They are adding new modes. There's several different modes that I was given. I haven't gotten a chance to play those yet, but I know that you guys will enjoy them, especially if you liked how this worked in a general sense as far as just the normal gameplay goes. So I know I'm rambling. So what do I think? Great game. Lots of strategy. If you really enjoy territory control, and if you like highly strategic, if you make a wrong move, you lose the game kind of thing, this is definitely the game for you. Mitropia is available on Kickstarter right now. I'm launching this video today to coincide with the launch of the Kickstarter. So the link will be in the description below. Go check it out. Go support these guys and the game that they are creating. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us out a lot. Make sure that you share it with your friends, family, and your nerding communities. If you have any games that you would like to see here on our channel, you can let us know down in the comment section down below. I do read them all, and I love interacting with you guys. If you have any videos you would like featured on our page to collaborate with us, you can hit us up on one of our many social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Circle of Nerds. Also, don't forget that we have a weekly podcast that comes out on Tuesdays called The Cosmic Disaster Show. You can find that right here on YouTube or anywhere that you enjoy listening to podcasts. And for an extra bit of love and affection to the Circle of Nerds, please check us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/circleofnerds. Anyway, guys, that's all from me. I will see you in the next video.